You know, when most of us think about the book of Revelation, we picture something totally new, right? Something mysterious, maybe even a little bit intimidating. It feels like this sudden, dramatic vision dropped into the very end of the Bible. But what if I told you that's not really the whole story? What if the key to unlocking Revelation was actually written centuries before? Okay, check this out, because this one fact could completely change how you see the entire book. Most of Revelation's first 20 chapters are pulling directly from material that's already in the Old Testament. So it's not a brand new prophecy as much as it is a grand finale, bringing together threads that have been weaving through Scripture for ages. So here's the key takeaway. Revelation's main job isn't to give us a ton of new information. Instead, it acts like a crystallizing lens. It takes all these prophecies that were scattered throughout the Hebrew Scriptures, gathers them up, and for the very first time puts them into a single, sequential story. So you might be asking, where's the actually new stuff? Well, you'll find it in the final 2 chapters. That's where we get the description of the eternal order, a reality that goes way beyond the Messianic kingdom, something the Old Testament prophets never fully saw. And that vision of eternity, you won't find it anywhere else but Revelation. All right, so if Revelation is organizing all these older prophecies, where did it get the blueprint? Well, the answer is tucked away in a specific part of the Old Testament that scholars have nicknamed Isaiah's Little Apocalypse. This little apocalypse is found in chapters 24 through 27 of Isaiah. It's this incredibly dense, powerful section of prophecy that lays out the exact sequence in the theological structure that the book of Revelation would later build on. Bottom line, to really get Revelation, you've got to start with Isaiah. But wait a minute, this brings up a huge question, right? Both Isaiah and Revelation describe a global judgment that is just unbelievably intense. If that's really what's coming, how in the world does anyone make it through? While Isaiah doesn't just leave us hanging with the question, he actually gives us the answer. He lays out this crystal clear 6-point blueprint for survival, a framework for understanding the end times that was put on paper thousands of years ago. So here's how it breaks down. First, Isaiah sets up this pattern of switching between scenes of crushing judgment and amazing restoration, a rhythm Revelation follows perfectly. Second, he gives a name to the tribulation, the indignation, a time of global punishment for sin. Third, he points to a refuge, telling the believing remnant of Israel to hide in chambers, which many link to the ancient city of Basra or modern-day Petra until the judgment is over. Fourth, he prophesies the resurrection of the Old Testament saints. Fifth, he celebrates the end of foreign rule over Israel. And finally, number 6, he reveals the one single principle for survival. You have to trust in God completely. Let's just zoom in on that fourth point for a second, the resurrection. Isaiah 26:19 is one of the most direct, explicit prophecies about this event in the entire Old Testament. It's just this powerful promise that life, not death, gets the final word. Now, this is where things get really interesting, because it points to a major difference in timing. The sources suggest that the resurrection of Old Testament saints, the one Isaiah talks about, happens after the tribulation to get them ready for the earthly kingdom. This is totally separate from the rapture of the church, which is believed to happen before this whole period of indignation. It really highlights that the tribulation has a specific focus. God's dealing with Israel and judging a world that has rejected Christ. So when you boil it all down, the survival guide from Isaiah and later from Revelation comes down to this one powerful idea. It's a foundational truth. Those who put their trust in God are saved. But those who rely on their own strength, their own resources, they face judgment. It's that simple. But hold on, the connection doesn't stop there. This is where it gets even deeper. Revelation takes these incredible promises that were made specifically to the nation of Israel in Isaiah and expands them into this cosmic, universal vision for all of humanity. See, in its original context, Isaiah's prophecy was all about a national restoration for Israel. It was a promise that the centuries of foreign rule, what Isaiah calls the other lords, would finally come to an end, and that Israel would at last possess the full boundaries of the Promised Land. But then Revelation comes along and just blows it up to a cosmic scale. It's not just about one nation and one piece of land anymore. It becomes this universal vision of God's final absolute victory over all evil and his eternal reign over a brand new heaven and a new earth. And you can literally see this expansion in the imagery. Isaiah talks about God defeating Leviathan, the ancient serpent of the sea. Revelation picks up that exact image and explicitly identifies that creature as the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan. The promises in Isaiah to swallow up death and wipe away all tears from Israel's eyes, in Revelation, they become universal promises for every single believer.
So what's the big picture here? What we're seeing is this consistent, victorious plan of God unfolding from the Old Testament all the way through the New. And it all pivots on this one simple question of personal trust.
Isaiah paints this incredible picture of God as the keeper of his people, promising to protect and nourish them literally every moment. Now, that's not a promise that life will be easy, but it is a promise of ultimate security and that he is sovereignly in control. But why? Why is God so absolutely committed to this plan? Well, the sources give us a profound reason. He does it for the sake of his own reputation. When enemies threatened his people, they were also blaspheming his name. Suddenly, the issue wasn't just about Israel anymore. It was about God's own character and keeping his word. And that brings us to the final and most crucial takeaway from all of this. The story that starts in Isaiah and climaxes in Revelation isn't really about whether good will triumph over evil. That victory is already a done deal. The only question left is a personal one for you. Which side of that victory are you on?